Hello everyone, welcome back to the Catholic Quest YouTube channel. This is going to be Detroit Become Human, but in a little bit of a different format. Essentially, I'm not going to be playing live this time, and it's actually going to be recycled footage. The reason for that is, I hinted at this in the past, but I came to a level in which you actually have to go into a strip club filled with androids and do an investigation there. However, I don't want to put myself or anyone else in the near occasion for sin, especially serious sin. So that's why I'm going to actually be talking about the topics that the level would have touched upon, but I'm not actually going to be going through the level. That being said, I'm just going to get right into it, give a bit of summary about the level, and go into a few topics that are actually very important. Okay, so as I stated earlier, you go into a strip club to perform an investigation. There was a murder. All right. Now, what topics does this immediately bring up? Well, the obvious answer is strip clubs. Are they okay? Are they wrong? What's the deal with that? Well, I would say yes, they are wrong. They are there specifically for the intention of sexual arousal outside of the confines of marriage, and that immediately puts them in a morally problematic situation. Seeking sexual gratification outside of the confines of marriage is intrinsically wrong. It is intrinsically evil, meaning it can never be justified. What does Jesus have to say about this? Here's a quote from the Bible, and this is Jesus talking. "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and throw it away. It is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body go to hell." Now those are some rough words. That's as you can see, Jesus was not joking around with this. And rightfully so. I mean, first of all, I just want to clarify, he doesn't actually mean go dismember yourself or go pluck out an eye. It's hyperbolic speech to express that this is extremely serious. And if a certain thing is leading you into sin, it is not worth keeping it around. It is not worth losing your soul over it. If, for example, your smartphone is a constant occasion for sin, get a dumb phone. Or you don't even need to do that if you're not comfortable with that. Put filters on your phone. Seek help, whatever it might be. Take the steps necessary to end this kind of sin. Or any sin for that matter, right? But especially serious sin. But specifically today we're talking about lust and other sexual sins. Now, I'm going to be talking about lust, but how is lust defined within the Catechism of the Catholic Church? And this is how I would define it as well, being a Catholic. Lust is disordered desire for or inordinate enjoyment of sexual pleasure. Sexual pleasure is morally disordered when sought for itself, isolated from its procreative and unitive purposes. Now, notice how there was two aspects to sexual pleasure that would make it morally good. You need the procreative aspect and the unitive aspect. Seek any of those out without the other, and you have a disordered action rather than a good action. Of course, this is all within the confines of marriage, procreative and unitive. Unitive should key us in on the fact that this needs to be within the confines of marriage, because that's where unity between a man and a woman needs to happen. That being said, we got to tie this all back to strip clubs. Why are they wrong? They seek sexual pleasure outside of the confines of marriage, removing the procreative aspect from the sexual act. So, there you go. And guess what? We read that looking lustfully at a woman is essentially committing adultery with her within your heart, as Jesus said in the Gospel of Matthew. That's pretty much all of what a strip club is. That is the point of it, is to look lustfully. That's wrong, and leads me to another point. The strip club is actually filled with androids. Why is sex with an android wrong? Well, we already touched upon it actually a little bit. Seeking sexual pleasure outside of the procreative aspects and outside the confines of marriage is going to be an immoral act. So androids cannot procreate with androids. And it seeks sexual pleasure outside of the confines of marriage, removing that unitive aspect within there. Now, keep in mind, the sexual act is still unitive. Even if we try very hard to remove that, it still is in a way unitive. Which is why there's no real, no strings attached sex. I mean, by definition, it causes strings. It ties the two people together in a very interesting and mysterious way. That being said, other ways that the sexual act is performed in a disordered fashion is by the use of contraceptives. Again, this removes the procreative potential. You step in and you purposely place a barrier between the sexual act and the procreative aspect of that act, and you're trying to separate the two when they are intrinsically linked. Now, you might be asking, why is it immoral if I have sexual relationships or seek sexual pleasure while removing the procreative aspect of it? I mean, that's a great question. And the simple answer is that is what the sexual act is intrinsically designed for. That is the primary purpose of it. And we actually see that, widely within animal species. I know there's some animals that reproduce asexually, but, for the majority of animals, that's how it works. And that's just what it is intrinsically tied to. Of course, I don't view humans as animals per se. So I think there's a fundamental difference between animals and humans. So if we want to specify it to humans, even within the human species, we can see that sex is specifically designed for reproduction. I think that is very clearly the primary goal of it. And that is how humanity has come to reproduce and flourish. So hopefully that explains that. Now keep this in mind, I don't mean to condemn anyone. I'm simply trying to move anyone who is struggling with any of this into repentance, and also simply just cutting it out of your life. You will be so much healthier. I mean, even if we don't look at the morality aspect, things such as pornography have been shown to rewire the brain. It has been shown to damage people's sexual abilities. I mean, there's studies that show that men who watch pornography actually have a higher chance of erectile dysfunction. So all of this stuff, even if you don't agree with the morality aspect, which, again, I view all of this stuff as intrinsically immoral, and I think there is good reason to believe that that is the case. But even if you don't agree, you have to at least accept the fact that this kind of stuff has actually been shown to be very damaging to the person consuming it. So those are just kind of my few thoughts on that. Of course, I do want to give you some resources. Actually, before I do that, let me add one thing. When you watch pornography or go to I don't know, strip clubs or whatever it might be, keep in mind this is a field where sex trafficking is a very big part of it. Not only that, but I mean, you think of rape, things like that. People at a strip club, some of them might be doing it out of necessity for money. Do you really want to support that? Do you want to support any of what I just mentioned? Probably not. Probably not. So not only are you doing an evil thing, but you're also contributing. You are cooperating with evil in many of these situations. But that being said, there is healing with all of this. If you're struggling with it, here's just a few resources. Look up the YouTube channel Pints with Aquinas. He's done a number of great videos on this, and the host is Matt Frad. That's his name. He also has a channel called Victory, and that's dedicated specifically to find healing from pornography. And he also has a program called Strive 21, which seeks to essentially bring you through a porn detox within 21 days. Look into this. I can't go into each of these resources in crazy depth. We'd be here all day because there's a lot of great resources, even though it might not seem like it sometimes. Also, please consider putting on, blockers on your phone. Some routers support it through the router itself, and you might even consider something like Covenant Eyes, which basically you put it on your phone and you have an accountability partner. If you go to a website, it'll send it. It'll let the person know, and a little bit of an awkward conversation at that point, huh? Might be a little bit of a deterrent, especially if you got a good accountability partner. That being said, those are kind of just my thoughts. I had a few bullet points that I wanted to touch on. I wrote them down, but most of this was kind of freeform. That's generally how I like to keep it. It feels a little more natural. And yeah, a bit of a serious episode, but I think a very important one. And I hope this benefits many people. Also, if you're a woman who struggles with pornography or any of this stuff, you are not alone. I know people make it seem like this is a guy thing. It's not. It's a human thing. It's a human thing. And you too can find healing, whether you're a man or a woman. Regardless, you can find healing. There are resources out there. Please, please seek them out. If you are a Christian, especially a Catholic, who has struggled with this, go to confession, bring it before the Lord, ask for His grace to help you and strengthen you. Believe me, He wants to help you. All right, that's all I have to say. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Remember, open up the door when Christ comes knocking. Bye-bye.